What's up, everybody? I just want to talk to y'all about issues that you will run into with using a used SLP lid or buying an SLP lid that do not come with the gaskets, because the filter I have in here now is in the stock Fram intake. I mean the filter, goddammit. The filter, the stock Fram filter. And if you can see on the back, like towards that area, right there, you can see a gap. That gap, if you don't have a gasket or if you can't seal it, because it'll look like it's sealed looking from there, and over here towards this corner, it looks sealed. But until you run about right there, there's a small gap. And when you're supposed to buy these lids, if you buy them from SLP, sometimes they'll send you a rubber gasket, the gasket that goes around, and sometimes they don't. I bought mine used, and I'm running into this problem now. But everything seals correctly. It's going to look like it's on correctly. It's going to seal up at the front. On the sides, it's going to seal perfectly. But then the problem you will run into is the small gap. The small gap that's back here. That gap will cause a check engine code, and you will be running horribly. But what I'm going to do is put weather stripping in here. I'm going to put weather stripping in there. And on the other side too, about right there. I could take off the mass airflow, and I think I am. And for those of you who do put an SLP lid on, if you want to take the mass airflow off the stock lid, all you have to do is get a blow dryer. You blow dry and you heat it up, and then once it heat up, you just pull while you're heating it, and then it should just pop straight out. But my mass airflow, it should be able to wiggle out, and I'm gonna wiggle it out, and then I'm gonna come back and I'm gonna show you guys the gap even better, because you can't really see the gap with the mass airflow on. So I'll be right back once I do that. All right, now that I took off the mass airflow, you can see that this has no wiggle or playroom. The worm clamp can't even go through. It can't even go. So it's just riding on the bottom. And for there to be a gap for a stock lid, I don't think this is a stock lid. The dude I bought it from, he said he had a Z28, and I know Z28s didn't come with SLP lids. But yeah, you're gonna run into a gap about there and there. What I did was I put weather stripping all the way through. The first time it didn't work. I put weather stripping under the tray. It didn't work, but I'm gonna try that as a better solution. But I just wanna put weather stripping along there, since I see this side is sealing. I see that side is sealing over here. This side is sealing. My issue is the middle. I could just put weather stripping there a little bit. No one will see it anyway. And probably some about right there too. And I should be okay. Or if you guys want to get more technical, you could heat it up and push it down and force it. But I wouldn't recommend doing that, because you might run into issues. But what I'm gonna do is put weather strip in there and the weather strip piece here, and hopefully it seals up, and I'll be back once I do that. Now that I put on the weather stripping, I just pull back this seal. This is not double-sided weather stripping, and this will not fly off. Well, it will not come loose and come into the mass airflow, because it's going to be held down and clamped down. And if you think when you put this on, it's going to push it off, it wouldn't, because there's already a gap. So this will just compensate for that gap. And hopefully it don't cause a gap over here, but I'm sure it wouldn't, because the filter would be flat, and this will close that gap that was there. But I'm gonna put the lid and this fucking. I'm gonna put the lid back on the. I'm put the lid back on, and then we're gonna see if it's still a gap. Freaking cold air intakes and mass airflow, the lids, all of this is freaking weird. Trying to say freaking lid, a lid. You might say cold air intake when it's really a lid, but I gotta get used to that. Now you can see that there's no longer a gap. My weather stripping is there, to there, and to there. Try and zoom in and see if you can see another gap. There is no other gap. That is sealed. That area is sealed where the gap used to be. There's no longer a gap. Everything is squished. Everything is squished and sealed. And now I'm gonna go put it on the car. When I put it on the car, should be working better now. But that's just one, that's an issue that you will run into with a SLP lid. It'll seal, it'll go on, it'll fit, and you'll put it on the car, and you'll be running into a lean code. But the code that I was running into was the PO4, I think 30. It was bank 2. It was a threshold below efficiency for it. But that was because the mass airflow basically was lifted up at the back, and you know you need manifold pressure to make power. There was no manifold pressure because it was a gap right here at the back. All the pressure is sucking out the back from 40 miles per hour. There's no difference, but like higher up in the speed, you will notice a difference. But yeah, that is just one issue you will run into running a SLP lid. Another thing that I heard people do was they put rice paper over the lid and then put some RTV to make like a homemade gasket around it. And then I seen some people put the weather stripping under the tray and make that give it a better seal. But I kind of don't want to put it under the tray, because when you push it under the tray, when you put this lid back on, this would be raised. Like you can see right there. Right, where's my finger? Oh man, hold up. I'm trying to find right there. Up under the orange, that's the tray. I probably could show you the tray moving if I get back to the angle. All right. You can kind of see, but oh, you can see now. You see that had disappeared? Has kind of gone away. That's because the tray is raising. And if you raise the tray, it'll provide a better seal. But then the issue you run into raising the tray is that the filter will start lifting up from up under the tray. And then that's when you run into an even worse problem, because then you will no longer be pulling filter air from under the car, but you'll be pulling straight air straight through the intake straight into your mass airflow. Then you might have a dirty mass airflow and you never know why it was. But that was because you raised the lid, the tray. When you raise the tray, it pushes the tray up and it might cause a little bit of gap in between there, and then dirty air will run through there, or sometimes it won't even seal and it'll go straight in here. But yeah, that's how I fixed, well, that's how I think I'm fixing my SLP lid. But if you guys have any questions or any comments, comment down below. Drop a like on the video and make sure you subscribe. All right, I had put the lid back on just to make sure. And you can see here, the filter is basically there. The filter is riding along there where that gap was, where I put the weather strip. This is where the gap used to be. And now you can see that is obviously clamping down on the filter, as you can see. And I'm running my finger along. The filter is clamping down. It's getting in there and holding it down. And then I know up under here, it should seal, it's sealing. So that should fix the problem with the filter. And yeah, that's it.